What's going on, peoples? What the deal is, my brothers and sisters? Grand Rising. Just putting a new twist on that instead of saying Grand Rising, Grand Rising, because the sun is out and the sun is singing right now. You know what I mean? But anyway, this is your brother Chief Flying Eagle Ra Elohim. All right, so I'm going to put a few things in perspective, for you, from a legal perspective. All right. Now, of course, some people may put their own twist on it, but let us go stick to the legal system and what things mean in the legal system, because I see there's a push on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, and Instagram, people, promoting, being non-citizen nationals, being nationals, etc., etc. And I'm not sure if people truly know what all of this means. It can get a little confusing, all right? Because everybody's looking for solutions, and there are a lot of people that's taking advantage of that right now. There's nothing wrong in taking advantage of that. It depends on the direction that you're taking people in, right? It depends on your motives. You feel me? If you're taking people in the right direction, why not take advantage of it? Because that's what we're supposed to do. Take our people in the right direction, not just in a direction because it sounds good. All right. So with that being said, let me break that down for you. And if you decide, hey, that's the route that I want to take, then at least the chief broke it down to you. All right. And that's why I tell people I was sent for a reason. Okay. Because I don't want my people to end up in situations they're thinking, well, that is the solution. That is the best route. I want to get out. And this sounds good. The individual sounds so convincing. And then you end up in a situation that you actually thought was a different situation, if that makes sense. All right. So here we go. So in today's class or lesson, like I said, we're going to talk about U.S. national versus a U.S. citizen and what it entails. Okay. However, both concepts are generally misunderstood by people, by the layman. All right. When it comes to the topic of national and citizen in the U.S. legal system, the distinction between a U.S. citizen and a U.S. national, while these terms are sometimes used interchangeably, okay, in everyday conversation, they have a very different legal meaning. And that's why I always emphasize, let's go into the legal system. Let's go into the law. I don't care what your personal emotions are. I don't care what your personal opinions are. Okay. Let us go into the legal system and let us go into the law. All right. And then we could make those determinations based on what's in their system. All right. What is a U.S. national? A U.S. national is an individual who owes permanent allegiance to the United States. You owe permanent allegiance to the United States. So let me ask you a question. If you're running away from the corporation, why would you want to pay permanent allegiance to the same corporation that you're running away from? Does that make any sense? It doesn't. But I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt. All right. This is the broader legal category. All U.S. citizens are U.S. nationals, period. Okay? All U.S. citizens are U.S. nationals because nationality deals with nations, right? So if the United States is considered a nation, then therefore, if you're a citizen of the United States, then your nationality is United States citizen and not American. They want people to think it's American, but no, America is a continent and we are the only Americans. Our identity, our race, our political status was stolen and taken from us. And for the most part, a lot of us gave it up due to propaganda and ignorance, right? So I'm going to repeat that again. All United States citizens, they are also U.S. nationals. And I just explained that because the United States is considered a nation And if you were born in the United States, therefore you are a national of the United States, because nationality deals with nations. Okay? And that's why when Moors talk about their nationality is Moorish American, well, where is the country called Moor? Where is the country called Moorish? It just doesn't make sense. But that's a whole different topic. Okay? However, not all U.S. nationals are U.S. citizens. So as you could see, nationality, okay, is exclusive to all or inclusive to all U.S. citizens, because all U.S. citizens are nationals. However, citizenship is not all inclusive or exclusive to U.S. nationals. So therefore, all U.S. nationals are not U.S. citizens. And I'm going to break that down. This is where it gets confusing, all right, to a lot of people. And this is where the whole concept of a non-citizen national comes in, because that's what's being pushed. I seen 3 brothers on TikTok talking about, DM me, learn how to be a non-citizen national. Get my book. Let me show you the process. My people, be very mindful. Everything that sounds good is not gold. Everything that glitters is not gold. The grass is not always greener on the other side. Even the things I teach you, I want you to do your own due diligence. Do your research. Prove me wrong. And if I'm wrong, bring the information to me. Don't put me on blast, because we are all ignorant to something. Send me an email, DM me, whatever the case is. Hey, Chief, you know what you said there, it wasn't quite correct, brother. Here's the facts. And guess what? I'm man enough to say, man, I gave you all that information. It wasn't quite correct. You feel me? This is what it is, and this is where you could find it. I'm man enough to do this. And thanks to such and such for bringing that to my attention, because this is about making sure we walk righteous. We put our people on a righteous path. And that's all I care about. You dig? So I just explained so far. I hope what I've explained makes sense. Okay? So I'm not going to go over that again. But however, let's get into non-citizen national. What is a non-citizen national? A non-citizen national is a person who has U.S. nationality but not U.S. citizenship. You see the difference? They have nationality but not citizenship. However, if you have citizenship, you are a national. All right? They owe permanent allegiance to the United States the same way as U.S. citizens who are actually nationals and are entitled to its protection, but they do not have all the rights and privileges of a U.S. citizen who is also a national. Currently, the primary group of non-citizen nationals are those born in American Samoa and on the Swains Island, okay, which are U.S. outlying possessions or territories. A person born in one of these territories acquires U.S. nationality at birth, but does not automatically become a U.S. citizen. I'm breaking this down so that even a baby could comprehend this. Okay? National versus citizen. The key difference between a U.S. national and a U.S. citizen lies in the rights and benefits they possess. While a non-citizen national can live and work in the United States without restriction, they cannot vote in federal elections, hold certain federal jobs, or serve on juries. They are also unable to petition for certain family members to immigrate to the U.S. The U.S. Constitution and its amendments generally confer full political rights and privileges on citizens, but not nationals. However, a citizen is also a national, but not a non-citizen national. So therefore, citizens are granted full protection under the Constitution. At least that's implied, right? Political protection. However, that does not apply to nationals to the fullest extent in terms of protection politically by the Constitution. All right? Now, this is where a lot of people on the internet are pushing this, how would I call it? This crazy idea that you could be a US citizen, all right, but at the same time be a non-citizen national. That's a trap that people are running into. Okay, pay attention. Can a US citizen be a non-citizen national? Absolutely not. No. A US born citizen cannot be a non-citizen national. As we have established, all citizens are a type of national because the United States is considered a nation. So therefore, from that perspective, you are a national because you are a citizen of the United States. But they are not non-citizen nationals. The status of a non-citizen national is a specific legal category reserved for those who acquire U.S. nationality without U.S. citizenship. Okay, now, is there a process where you could renounce your U.S. citizenship and acquire U.S. nationality as a non-U.S. citizen? That's a different question. All right, that's something I choose not to get into because that's going a little too far. You know, expatriation and all these different things. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to confuse this lesson by going, you know, to the extreme and going overboard, right? So we're just strictly sticking to what people are teaching and trying to pull people into. Get my book. Let me show you how to be a non-citizen national. Okay, come to this private class and register for this and register for that. I'm not knocking nobody's game, nobody's hustle, nobody's job, or no. If that's your thing, that's your thing. I just want my people to be mindful and be careful. And that's why I tell people, do your due diligence. Even when I bring you information, all right? Do your due diligence. Let us get into the topic of passport and issuance. The U.S. Department of State issues passports for both citizens and non-citizen nationals. Question: who provides these passports? The U.S. Department of State. Okay? Those passports still belong to the United States. They still belong to the United States. I'm going to repeat that 3 times. Like, you know how Umar Johnson always repeating things 3 times? Those passports belongs to the United States. A non-citizen national passport will look similar to a U.S. citizen, but it will contain a specific endorsement stating that the holder is a U.S. national, not a U.S. citizen. All right. This distinction is crucial for international travel and for understanding or understanding or overstanding the holder's legal status. The United States government can take back a passport from a non-citizen national. The authority to issue, deny, and revoke passports rests with the Secretary of State. So they have a right to take back their passport, whether you are a citizen or a non-citizen national. It happens with citizens all the time. Due to child support, you owe money, court orders, you're a felon, all those different categories in terms of what they call crimes. All right. They could take their passports, whether you are a non-US citizen, or a non-US national, or you are a US citizen. You feel me? The reasons for revocation or revoking a passport are outlined in federal law and regulations. These reasons generally relate to matters of national security. They always use that. Foreign policies, right? Law enforcement and financial obligations to the government. Some of the most common grounds for revocation include fraud or misrepresentation, all right? Outstanding warrants, child support debt, serious delinquent tax debt, national security, court orders, etc., etc. They could find reasons to take away your passport so you don't go through the ports, because that's what passport means. Okay? Now, allegiance of citizens and nationals, because you have an allegiance to the United States. The short answer is yes, both U.S. citizens and non-citizen nationals owe allegiance to the United States. The legal definition of a national of the United States in the Immigration and Nationality Act, INA, is explicit about this. It states that the term national of the United States means a citizen of the United States, okay, or a person who, though not a citizen of the United States, owes permanent allegiance to the United States. You feel me? This legal definition is the foundation for the distinction. All citizens, by virtue of their citizenship, meaning that they were born in the constructs of the United States, they owe this permanent allegiance, and therefore they are nationals. Non-citizen nationals are defined precisely by the fact that they are not citizens but still owe the same permanent allegiance. What does allegiance means in law? In a legal context, allegiance is much more than a feeling of loyalty or patriotism. It is a fundamental legal duty. In a nutshell, it means a duty of fidelity and obedience. Key word, obedience. Allegiance is the legal tie, okay, tie, covenant, contract that binds, tie, contract, covenant, an individual to their government, or sovereign, is the duty of a faithful and obedient to the law, aka legal system, constitution, and government of that state. All right? So we're talking about a reciprocal relationship. You give me your allegiance, I give you privileges, right? Now, there's a difference between permanent and temporary allegiance. Let me explain that to you. All right? Permanent allegiance, this is the allegiance owed by the citizen or a national. It is lasting obligations that does not change just because the person travels or lives abroad. It is the key element of their legal status. Temporary allegiance. This is the obedience and loyalty a person like a foreigner or a visitor, a resident alien, owes to the laws of the country while they are physically within its borders. This allegiance is temporary and ends when they leave the country. All right. So, my brothers and sisters, I hope, I broke this down enough for you so you know the difference. Okay. And the likeness of a U.S. citizen who is also a national, but they're not a non-citizen national. There's a difference. So when you hear people telling you, let me show you how to become a non-citizen national, man, all I'm just saying, do what works for you. Your brother is only here to give you the information. All right? I keep telling our people, our protection and the highest status in the land, our ancestors already put that in law, American Indians. All right? And the goal is to come together as a collective to have our own, where we don't have that obligation to the foreign occupiers, but have an obligation to our own flag, our own government, our own passports. Because that's what it was supposed to be. As per House Resolution 331, the United States have an obligation to deal with American Indians from a government to government basis. I keep telling y'all brother was sent for this. And everything is already in place. That's why I'm always putting my email. Someone requested that I start putting my website. I will oblige and also put the website. You dig? But for those who feel like, I just want to run away from what the protection is, do you, man. Do you. But like I said before, they give you the passport. It's theirs. They could take it away. What the Lord giveth, the Lord could also taketh. It is really that simple. Jump high, jump low. It is what it is. You did. So where is the big protection? Or how is that taking you away from the allegiance that you owe to the corporation that's giving you the authority to pass through the ports, having a passport? All right? Like I said, do what works for you. And then some people talk about the different level of stars on the passports. The bottom line is this: who give you the passport are the same people who could take away the passports. It is really that simple. All right? Peace and love.